This is going to be another one of those Mike makes a postcard. I've made several videos called Mike makes a farm card. Put them on the internet. By the way, just so if you're wondering, how would I get an idea for something to do, right, for a farming card? If you were to go to Google and you were to type in real estate farming, how about real estate farming ideas, farming letters, farming postcards? How about real estate farming ideas? What do we get here? There's a bunch of the National Association of Realtors has a guide to farming and prospecting for realtors. Those are sort of so-so 10 killer real estate. Well, you can to read it is. Not everything. So if you want to, what I usually do is I click on images, and what you're going to start to see is a whole bunch of images of people that of what they've done, and so that gives you some ideas. The most effective the most effective materials that you can send to people generally are what's going on in the market. They've actually surveyed buyers and sellers of real estate and asked them what was it that you'd like to know. Right. So what we're going to do is what they want to know is just listed, just solds, and what's going on in the market, which are sort of the same thing. So I've logged in as Manny, and what we're going to do is I just want to go through the process of making something for a market update. All right. And I haven't run his search yet, but I'm going to, and then we'll see which kind we're going to need because it all depends upon the search. You You can log in. Everybody can be logged into Manny's account. I'll write his password on the board, and you can all. No, it's never mind. So, what the process for this is, and I have videos on 21st San Jose called How to Pick a Farm. In fact, Kitty told me that she actually watched my video while she was logged into the MLS and selected a farm. You did to two people in 20 years have actually watched my video and followed the instructions. Was it easy to do? It was easy to do, right? And so anyhow, there's a video on how to do this. I may have videos on how to do this too, but I'm making another one right now. So if that video, the other videos talks about how to identify a farm area, how to run a search using the map-based search and then save it. So I'm going to, people say, where do you find the saved searches? You go to My Matrix and you go to Save Searches. Now, I happen to know that there's something else we're going to need to do before I look at this, but let's look at it. I'll look at it first. So I clicked on Cambrian Farm, and so it says that he has classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all cool. He wants single-family condo or townhomes. The issue here is it's not impossible to do that, but the issue is, are you farming both single-family homes and condominium complexes? Probably not, right? And if you are farming both, you would have something different for the condos than you would for the single-family homes. I happen to know there's not a lot of condos in 951. Which did you do 124 or did you do? Let's look at the criteria. So I'm going to click on criteria, so I can look at his. So what happened is he didn't pick either of these two buttons. So if you don't pick one of the two buttons, what you end up with is both. Okay. So there's 18 matches because it says 0 minus 90. And you did a map area. So this means that he did a map-based search. If we click on the map search, we can peek at what his map search was. And that's it, a small area that he's picked. And so that's not bad. We're going to click on cancel though, because I don't really want to mess with the map. And this says 0 minus 90, 18. If we go 0 minus 30, it's going to tell us that there's 14. That's actually kind of good news because there's more recently than there was in the past. Now, the reason 14 is possible, but let's say 0 minus 14 shows you there's 5. Right? What we're trying to do is end up with a number of results at some place in the neighborhood of between 5 and 10. Right? If you can, if you're willing to do an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, which can be mailed out, you fold it. You have to put a little sticky tape on the bottom of the fold and send it out. Then you could have a large piece of paper where you could run a whole bunch more than 5 or 10. But if we're doing a postcard, we only want to do somewhere between 5 or 10. And so sometimes what I'll do is watching this number and watching the change date, I'll just keep changing the change date until I get a number that I think will fit. Right? Isn't that the is
6.
it's 6, right? So we're just I want around 10ish for the number. So we just want a number that fits. Isn't that the motto of the New York Times? All the news that fits. No, that's not right. That's oh, that's it. Oh, anyhow, sorry about that. I may have been mistaken. Now it was 20. All right. So or I got 9. So you must have the townhomes checked. All right. But well, anyhow, now that we've done this, however, there's another step which we one of my suggestions for working with Matrix is to right click. And by the way, if you have a Macintosh, I don't know how to right click. Right? Do you understand? It's a control. I think to use a Mac and to do a right select, you have to hold down like 8 keys at once. And yeah. So what I'm going to do, because I'm not using a Mac, I'm going to go up here to My Matrix and I'm going to right click and I'm going to open it in a new tab because I don't want to change what I just did. But what we want to do, and this is an important step, this may be the most important part of what I'm recording, and is we're going to go to settings. And by the way, this is an area that many people have never ventured into that are in the MLS. I meet agents that have been in the MLS for 20 years and they never ventured. And if you click on My Information, so you might want to look at that. That looks okay. And look at your email signature. That looks okay. Manny's actually done something with his, which is better. And so we're just going to, we're not going, that's not the reason for being here, but we're going to go back to My Matrix and settings. You might want to look at your information, right, just to make sure you have your phone number, your BRE number, and everything. But what we really want to do is go to custom exports. This is what's going to make it really easy, relatively speaking. And what the fact that this area is blank indicates that Manny hasn't set up an export yet, but we're going to add an export. Now, what we're going to call this is, how about farm update? You can call it whatever you want. Neighborhood update. Farm is a shorter word for me to type. And I have to admit, I have not counted them recently, but last time I did count, there was 130 some fields listed. Right? I had I had no social life and time on my hands. So I thought it would be interesting to count all the available fields. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to pick out some fields. Now, address may seem logical, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to pick on baths, and you can hold down the control key, or I don't know what you do if it's we're going to do baths full, beds total. I'm not going to put in the partials, bathrooms, building square feet, close of escrow date, uh, 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 days on available. I've only done this a few hundred times, but it has to be done kind of slowly. We're going down here, going here, going here, going. Horse property, hot tub, insulation, lease, list price. Um, yeah, list date. You could change this if you want to. I'm going to look and see if I'm doing this the way I want to. And what I would do once I add these, I'll see which ones I've missed. Um, uh, uh, we don't want the sale price.
Are you adding these, Mike?
I'm going. They're going to when I click on the magic button.
So fast full, fast partial.
Just a second. And street name. And if you click on add, I'm doing this too because I don't know. And we want status. So we have status, street name, street sale price, list date, list price, close of escrow date, bedroom, bath, and square foot. All right, that's a reasonable one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move status up to number 1, street name up to number 2. I am recording this for those of you that are wondering why I'm going so fast. I'm recording it right now, and I'm going to move this up. And I've done this before, and so that's a different one. That's not the one I wanted to pull up. I've done this before. And so this is square foot, age, list price, sales price, list date, close date. Age is another one we could put in. All right. So this is my basic.
Prefer age still go to days on market?
They can do the calculation themselves. And by days on market, are we talking about original days on market, continuous days on market, or the days on market of the most recent listing?
That impress the sellers.
We're not we're this is bait right now, and so I'm going to add age, and
What you do, because then when they're looking at it and comparing their house, they'll say, is it
right,
the same age as mine, or
it's a list that I made that fits. Right, this is all the list that fits. You don't necessarily want to tell them everything, otherwise they don't have a reason to call you. Now, the order is somewhat important because I like to be efficient and do the least amount of work. Right. And so and by the way, there is a link on Do the One Thing to the folder where all this stuff is, including one I'm making for Manny once I'm done. But this list, status, name, that's street name, beds, baths, square foot, age, list price, sales price, list date, and close date was my basic list. All right. Now, I am recording this so that you could look at it yourself later. List date, close date, sales price, and you want to click here where it says label, and we're going to save this. Right? So now Manny has a custom export called farm update. People will not see what the export is called.
what did you put farm update?
What? Well, it may be
I see export name.
right. So now we're going to go back to our search, which is another tab that I have open, and I have been told that my having 4 or 5 tabs open and switching back and forth confuses people. So I'm just saying, if I were you, I would do the custom export first, right? So that means you go to My Matrix, go to Settings, go to Custom Exports, and do what I did, right? I'll be happy to print out a copy of Manny's postcard, and you can see which ones I put in. I've had people argue about whether or not those are the right ones. For example, and I don't care really, right? If you don't want to use my list and you want to make up your own list, I'm not going. But I don't put in the street number. I just put in the street name, right? So it'll just say it's sold on Shawnee, right? That's all it's going to say. It's not going to say 154 Shawnee, right? Why? Because I want somebody to call me up and say which one was that, right? The purpose, maybe I had to be really clear about this. The purpose of doing this is not dissemination of market information, right? That's not the purpose, right? I know it sort of looks like it, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to get someone to call you and say, I'd like to know more about what my home is worth. Right? I've had people say, well, anyhow, unclear on the concept, that's the purpose. So now that we've done this, remember Manny's search, and we did the results, and there's 9 matches. Does everybody remember how we got there? We're going to, and I have to remember how to, I'm going to click on Save, because I've changed a couple of things. And what it's done is that it's made modifications to his search. What I did is I changed the number of days back, and I changed the fact that I took off it's only single family homes. So this is what a safe search looks like. Settings, criteria, results. Let's click on results. And here they are. All right. And so you click on that button up at the very tippy top left corner, and that highlights all of them. And notice what happens until that's done. Export. You see export? You can barely see it. It's grayed out. It's shaded out. You can't do anything, right? So, but if we click on that, it allows us now. We can click on export, and what it's going to do is it's going to say which one of your custom exports do you want to use. Now these are all were done by the MLS, but it's put farm export up at the top. We're going to click on export, and I'm just going to let the program open it in Microsoft Excel. And I'm going to go through all the steps that I normally go through, even though you may not like it. I'm going to make a macro that does this, but this is the part where I lose people, right? So I'll do this slowly. I'm recording it, and I haven't written a macro yet. Should I do a macro now? Audio and video. Yeah, right now. As we're, see down here in the corner, this little thing going? Yeah, yeah. And it's $5 to watch the video. I have a PayPal account. What I might do is make the macro now. Should I really do that, or will that just freak people? It sometimes will freak people out. Let me see if I've. Yeah, but the problem with making macros is that somebody's going to then want to know, how do you use a macro? All right, and I really don't want to be doing this, but I'm putting it, I'm embedded. We're going to have to talk about how to use a macro, right? Just.
You mean you don't want us to just Google it and see the YouTube video?
You can watch me, but what is it? What's it doing? Oh, well, I'm trying to do that first. Oh, that's not how the macro works. This is a 2013. This is what. Okay. Create. All right. So why is it doing this? I'm going to make the macro at some other point in time. Right? I'm not going to do the macro today. Because what it's going to do, I'm going to do it at a different point in time. It's only when I do this that I realize that some people are. I'm going to do this. I've clicked on home, and I clicked on this little box up here in the corner, and that highlights the whole spreadsheet. And by the way, what I'm doing now is I have a guy who lives not in this country, who's very good with Excel macros. And so I'm going to take this video, and I'm going to take this worksheet, and I'm going to mail it to him, and he'll make the macro for me. This is a newer version. And so, but this is what we do, right? I highlight the whole thing. I go to Format, and I click on Auto Fit. That makes everything fit. If you highlight the first row and you make it bold, you've communicated with Excel that that's a range of fields. And what I usually do is I take out, because there's an economy, we just want the street, we just want it to say BAVs, we just want it to say beds, we want it to just say square feet, age is okay, listing, I usually short that, oops, Z. That was not what I wanted to do. List, date, close, date, list price, sales price. All right. And the macro will remove it. One of the things we want to do is we highlight this column and we go to data and we sort. And by the way, for those of you that are, if you run the export and send it to me, I'll send it back to you, right? Because without having to explain anything, this doesn't take me more than a few minutes, right? If you just run the export and send it to me, and when I get the macro, then it'll take me even less than that. But I generally don't specify which kind of pending it is. And I just say sold, and then we drag that down, right? So the sorting of it puts active first, pending second, sold third, which is how I want it. I change this column so that it says, where does it say? Format cells, and what I like, because I just happen to like it, is the you put in number. We want 1,000 separator, and we don't want any zeros. And the date, people look at that and they say, why does it have that crazy date? And the answer is that it's a default setting, and if you click on format and date, what we want to do is we wanted to make it look just plain. And for pricing, we highlight that and format cells, and we take currency and we get rid of this. And now it looks a lot nicer. Now, if you guys will run the export and email it to me, I'll do this for you, right? You understand? And once I get the macro, but then if I send you the macro, unless you know how to, it may not help you, right? This part, because I know it, this is the part that people look at and they say, I'm not. It does it automatically, right? Because what I do is I highlight field columns, and I do the changing of pendings and sold. I do it in a global search and replace, find and replace. Right, right, it is. But it's just that for some people, and then I'm changing because I know which, and by the way, for the macro to work, you have to give me the data in this order. Right, you understand? Because the macro will be changing. But otherwise, you can do it yourself, right? You understand? This doesn't take, if I weren't talking, it wouldn't take me very long. And it is true, I've had some practice.
This is just for the last 30 days?
Or 20 days, whatever we did. Right, now, right. One thing, now this is just my personal issue. And so before I'm going to take care of my personal issue, I'm going to auto fit. You go to format, which has to be on the home tab, auto fit column lift. Notice how it makes it nice and tight. And I have a personal issue about this where I highlight the whole thing and I copy it and I put it in Microsoft Word. I'm going to have to ask my Excel guy if there's something I don't know, and I paste it in. And the reason that I'm doing it is I don't like the street names all caps. I don't like it. So the street names all capped. And so it doesn't have the same, it doesn't have that button.
Word automatically changes.
Right, it doesn't have that button. And so I know somebody who's an Excel expert, and I'm going to ask him if he can put that in the macro. No, drop caps is where you get a great big letter at the beginning. It's not that. Don't worry about that. It wouldn't kill you to have the names of the street uppercase, right? But I didn't like it, so I put it in Word because it can change that whole column. Now that we have that, we copy it. Now what I've made, which is available for you guys, is I've made and I'm making one for Manny right now. And what I'm going to do is look at this for the whole page. Come on. All right. And I've got in the clipboard the table, and I've just pasted it, and there it is. Now you can see I've done this before. And so the idea is that once this is set up, all that you want to change is this block in here, right? And sometimes people say, well, won't it look like the last one? So you do 1 month on yellow paper and 1 month on goldenrod paper and 1 month you do it on white paper. You just change the color of the paper. This could be black on white. And so once we've got this, we just drag this in and scooch it around. How many of you would like me to do your farm next Friday rather than mine? It's people say, do mine, do mine. One of the cool things about Publisher, and this is in Microsoft Publisher, I double clicked on the edge of the table and what's popped up are pre-formatted table things. So if I click on one, notice how it puts a line underneath it. So if you want to see what this looks like up front, this is what it looks like now. And it's easier at this view to move it around, make it fit, right? But
Shorten it a little bit
what do you mean?
this way,
I don't know.
because it was sticking out of the lines.
Do you mean because this is shorter than that?
No, if you highlight it, you see how it,
It's not going to show up that way.
oh,
That doesn't look bad to me. I don't know. And if you could, if you don't like, I think that looks fine. Right. It's only because I don't want to change it. And
I have to give you more money.
yeah, yeah. And so what I use now, Manny wants his to be two-sided so that he can make it a postcard. Right. And so what I usually do on the front page is I simply have the name of the agent and the phone number and the BRE number very small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that for now. So I'm willing to help you get this set up. I only want this much here. And what I have found is that when you get anything from this, somebody's going to call you, right? And it doesn't necessarily happen right at first. So I'm making that. Basically, what I'm just doing is making it fit. I want the phone number to be big, and it's all bold, and the office name. We can make it that. So, it's a postcard. Now, what I would do at this point is I'd look at the whole page. I would go down here, and I'm going to get rid of all of that stuff.
That's the back side.
No, this is still the front side.
I mean, the grid was on the back.
He's just the last person who paid me to do this. And down here. So once I've made one for Manny, the idea is all he has to do is run the report once a month, do the export. You can send me the Excel spreadsheet for a while until you figure out how to do it yourself, and you just paste it in. Now to make a back, and this is, you can see I spend way too much time doing this sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up saving this as a special one just for Manny. What I'm going to do, this would be a postcard, so I put a logo up here, and I've taken from Manny's signature all of this stuff. And so I'm going to insert a text box. I'm going to put it here. And so this has all of his information. I'm viewing it by looking at the page width. And we're...
This is going to be the side where the address goes?
Right. This is the back side. And the reason we're doing it is that the way I do this is once I had them, I would go to, I used to go to Kinko's, which is FedEx, although I've been doing this recently at Office Max because they're closer and I'm lazy, I'm efficient. And I also have one of those cards for Office Max, and you take it to Office Max or Kinko's, and you have them printed on a 110-pound, it's called index paper, the thick paper, black on colored paper. Say you want yellow or goldenrod. Those are the, if you get a heavy color like a dark brown or something, it doesn't, the ink doesn't look very good, or green doesn't always look very good. You want a lighter color paper, yellow, canary or goldenrod, and then they'll cut it. Right? And it costs like 90 cents or $1.10 to cut it. And what they end up giving you then is a box of postcards, two-sided, right? Two-sided. So that's why I'm doing two up, right? Once I made one, I made a second one. And so I'm going to make his phone number. Notice the thing I like about Publisher is it's got that little up and down thing. And we want people to go to Manny's website. And so we're going to make that bigger. And we've got his email address in case they want to email him. And that's a simple back, right? It's possible that we could put in another call to action or something like that, right? You know, you could put in something else if you wanted to, but I'm going to go back here.
And then you would either stick the addresses on that.
Right. Well, and what we would do is we would copy this, and oops, that wasn't it. Now, if you're saying, well, I would like something fancier, and I want ideas for something fancier, where was my real estate farming? Here's, some of you may recognize that. It came from something I did, and people say, where did you get that? This is where I got it. And I'm not saying that this is appreciated by the people who did this. But if I were to take that image and just like put it someplace where I could find it, and then go back, let me find Manny's thing, and I wanted to insert it. I always go too far when I do this because people say you lost me at a certain part. But here's this little thing, and it's red and gold, so it may not. But what this is going to do, and by the way, I've borrowed this text here, and so people say, where do you get the ideas for your farming pieces? So I'm going to just take this, and what I do, this is Notepad. And the reason I drop things into Notepad is it eliminates all of the formatting. And so once this is done, you know, the idea is you shouldn't have to change it all the time. Let me get back to Manny. Where's Manny? Down here. So I'm going to insert another text box. And I'm going to just paste this in. And I'm going to make this. All right, so it could look prettier. One way to make it look prettier is to take the box, make everything bold so it stands out. You double click on the edge of the box. What is it? Why is it unhappy with me? Oh, because I've cut something off. All right. I don't want it to, don't want it to, all right, so now that we've made the box, we double click, I'm doing well, maybe it's already up here. So format box, okay, I should just pay attention. Drawing tools, format box, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to fill it black, see up here. I've got things that overlap, which is why they're doing that. So the shape fill is going to be black, and we're going to make the white. And in order to just make it, just because, all right. 2 words when it comes to real estate right now. Seller's market. Please contact me to learn more about why now is the time to sell. A reasonable message. I'll put a period, and I'm going to view this, the whole page, and I'm just going to add. And so all of you, I'd be happy to give you a copy of this, right? Let me just get rid of all this stuff. It's easier to do this when it's, and what I've done, and some of this requires, some of this, admittedly, I've spent some time learning, but part of this, you see, this, I don't like it that the letters are so far apart, and so what I'm going to do is go down to line spacing options, and it's this one here that's making it, so what that will do is it'll tighten up the text a little bit more. And if I go here to line spacing options, and this says it's got that much between the lines, notice how it's tightened up the text, right? And
The whole box, it does that, no?
right, it's formatting the whole box, and I'm gonna, just because I don't know, I'm just making it so it's neat. And so now we have a postcard, right? And I put a little ruler in here, which I could make a little bit, but it sort of shows where the break is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these other things to make this nice and clean. Delete, sure, whatever. And I'm going to delete this one too. And yeah, so it's just got many stuff. And then I'm going to go to File, Save As, because that way it won't mess up the one I've already done. And I'm going to say, and you have a postcard. So go send it out. Now, it's possible to do this so that it's only a one-sided flyer. There's the value of that is it costs half as much to print, and you don't have to put postage on it. And it's actually less than half because in order for it to go out as a postcard, you're going to need 110-pound minimum index paper, right? If you just print this on some light little paper, the post office will throw it away, right? Because they'll look at it, and if it's a postcard, it has to be able to go through their machine, right? 110 or bigger paper, and it'll go right through. They'll be happy. So if you the other option is for him to just print this out on one piece of paper, one-sided, have it cut. Right? If you go to, I think it was 3 cents black on white at Office Max, right? That's a deal compared to our printers, but you print it out one-sided yellow paper, have it cut. You have a one-sided thing that you could hand out. You could make 1,000 of those, right? A lot less expensive. To send out the postage, you get the idea. Now, if you use a company like Reps or other mailing companies, they can send it out extended carrier route pre-sort, which doesn't happen immediately, but it will lower the postage to about 23 cents. They'll print them for you too, as a package. And I sent out 1,000 postcards that looked a lot like this, although they were for a different purpose. And it cost an average of 48 cents, black on white, an average of 48 cents, including postage, to mail it out, including postage. Right, because the postage was only 23 cents because it was the bulk rate, and that everything they labeled it. I gave them that's a necessary part. I gave them an Excel spreadsheet with the names and addresses. They ran it through what's relatively expensive software to come up with the carrier route pre-sorts, and they put the barcode on it. They did all that sort of stuff, and they printed it, mailed it, took it to the post office. Everything was 48 cents a postcard. This it's a jumbo postcard, right? Not an itty bitty one, but it was actually me using this software, making something that looked a lot like this. It just was for a different topic. It was for a recruiting thing that Jeff and I were
Do you
doing.
have a minimum amount?
No, but the price per unit goes up as the minimum goes down. That's what your print goes down. So it's going to cost you more per one to do 500 than it's going to do 1,000. And there is, to get bulk rate, there is a minimum amount. I believe it's 125 in one zip code. Or it's 120. There's a minimum number. You can't say, I want to send out 15 things bulk rate. They'll say, that's not bulk. Right. They'll be snotty with you and say, no, you can't do it. So you have to have a minimum number of pieces to do bulk. But then it's less expensive. So I don't know if that was helpful, other than you want to pay me to make your next postcard. But and if you don't have Publisher, come into the office and use one of our computers. If I've had people say, can you do this in Word? I can, but it takes like 10 times as long, and I'm not going to do it. I've had people ask, could you do it in PowerPoint? I could, but I'm not going to do it. Right, because it's going to take me a lot longer. Publisher was built for this.
So since it's all built, I can get it?
Right now, how does Manny get it? Does anybody know?
Go to your website.
Yeah, and this is the, if you go to why I'm going to send you the dotheonething.com. I know. dotheonething.com. I like to search because Google will figure out what I did wrong. And if you go to my dotheonething.com website, which I need to spend more time on, and you scroll down, click here to access farming samples, and you click there, and basically all the stuff that I'm doing as sample farming materials, I'm putting in this folder in copy.com. Here's some stuff from Athenia and Name Your Park and Record, and it may not have updated Manny's. There are many are market update. There it is. It just updated. You click on it. It says publisher. There's a button down here that says save. You download it to your computer, and now you have a copy of Manny's postcard, which he'll be happy if you sent out. Right?
Let me know how many you sent.
All right. Is that good enough? I have anyhow, it's good enough.